Sitcoms are mostly products of their period, and it's normal to have some nostalgic affection for TV shows from the past, but how often do you revisit your favorite sitcom from the 1990s and come across a scene that strikes you as, whoa, that would not fly today? Number 5, Married with Children. It's true that Married with Children pushed the limits. What made it so popular was how unique it was from other sitcoms. Although it appeared to be a normal family sitcom, this one was twisted, a realm of harsh comedy where people rarely learned lessons. Although it wasn't for the family, it may have been about a family. It was your responsibility if you allowed your children to watch Married with Children at the time. But even so, the show had one of the most controversial episodes canceled before it could run. Even though the Bundy family is dysfunctional, they're still a family despite being horrible individuals. Although Al, Ed O'Neill, never hits his children, Bud, David Faustino, and Kelly, Christina Applegate, or cheats on his wife Peggy, Katie Seagal, these individuals are a disaster. Al constantly made fun of his wife and kids, oogled at women, and even took his son to a strip club. He even made fun of obese women, most notably in the episode Crimes Against Obesity. He couldn't stand feminists either. Women, to him, were objects. The show itself treated women that way, with Kelly reduced to a dumb, sexy blonde. In a 2018 interview, Amanda Beers, who played Al's female nemesis Mary Darcy, said that the show was mean-spirited and misogynistic and completely inappropriate. Today, I don't think the show would be produced because it's so globally offensive. Number 4, The Big Bang Theory. Calm down, we know the sitcom still has many fans, especially with its spin-off Young Sheldon and another upcoming one about Sheldon's brother George. But folks, The Big Bang Theory is not so funny. Everyone has always raved about The Big Bang Theory, but sorry guys, we don't find it funny. Perhaps it's the subject matter or the condescending tone of each character. It's offensive. There was once a time when the show was arguably the most popular thing on TV. It's important to stress the subjectivity of comedy. Even when the world is changing and ideas of humorous content have become different, it's still important that people get the chance to like what they like. If there's one thing we've had to endure ever since The Big Bang Theory began to air on TV, it's the ridiculous stereotypes that these characters have portrayed for such a long time. By season 7, Jim Parsons, who portrays Sheldon, turned 40. Playing a whiny man-child had to have been frustrating considering his actual age. He's constantly annoying. We need to talk about Penny and her love life for wine and beer. She's an adult, which makes it fine for her to drink, but that's not the problem. Instead, it's the fact that for 12 seasons of The Big Bang Theory, she constantly portrayed a lack of self-control or awareness of her problems. The series, which collected awards and accolades along the way, plays heavily on stereotypes. Penny's character is the stereotypical clueless girl. The show also pokes fun at geek culture and often depicts geeks as extreme introverts. Having nerdy interests doesn't make you weird. What the show forgets is that comic books, video games, and action figures are now mainstream too. And let's not forget the fact that the show made fun of Jewish and Indian culture. In fact, many in the Indian community find the show offensive. Plus, its treatment of women as objects of desire and the casual chauvinistic remarks all make the show offensive. Number 3, Ugly Betty. When it was first released 10 years ago, it was hailed as a one-of-a-kind series on American television. Consider how people today see certain parts of stories or even the law itself. A lot has changed since Ugly Betty initially aired. In the past, a few of the Ugly Betty elements have problematic touches. Some of the elements included in the show were fashion, journalism, family, friendship, career, feud, coming back from the dead, and LGBTQ issues. Betty was not as skinny and style-conscious as most of the Mode staff, but she was nonetheless attractive despite wearing braces and spectacles. The word ugly in the title slips away when the show ends, leaving only Betty on the screen to show how her appearance has changed and she's no longer ugly. Since the definition of beauty is very subjective, calling Betty unattractive will not sit well with today's audiences. Even with her glasses, braces, and layered mismatched clothes, America Ferrera is not unappealing to today's audiences. With the series being set at a fashion magazine, some of the stereotypes that are part of the niche setting were also brought up. One such example is the belief that gay men are treated with greater respect in the fashion industry than straight men. As an example, Alec Mapa's character Suzuki, a fashion television anchor, claims to be gay while being married to a woman and having 2 sons. In another scene, the boyfriend of designer Amanda Tannen, Becky Newton, also pretends to be gay for the same reason. The previously mentioned stereotype is a far cry from reality now or even then. Number 2, 24. 24 is an example of how a good TV series can become a torturous viewing experience. Although it's not exactly a sitcom, it should be discussed. Kiefer Sutherland's action show was ahead of its time, tackling terrorism on telly in the aftermath of 9/11, but by season 6, it had become useless. In contrast to all previous TV thrillers, 24 developed more like a cutting-edge modern computer game than a planned thriller. The storyline essentially consisted of a sequence of split-second choices made by Bauer, portrayed by Kiefer Sutherland, each of which led him down a different route as the rest of us watched on. The writers of 24 had a deeper understanding of America's changing social terrain than political commentators did. Not even identifying race as a subtext, they hired not 1 but 2 black actors in the president's chair 3 years before anyone had ever heard of Barack Obama. But somewhere along the line, 24 went bad. Although 24 was sometimes ridiculous, season 6 was the dumbest. Wayne, the trash brother of David Palmer, was sworn in as president several years later. In the original story, Jack was only freed from a Chinese prison to allow a terrorist to have him executed. Also, the series was criticized for perceived Islamophobia and glorification of torture. Number 1, Family Guy. Since 1999, Seth MacFarlane's animated Fox series Family Guy has been offending audiences left and right. Family Guy has succeeded even when deliberately pushing boundaries, whether through Peter Griffin's misogyny, Meg Griffin's family's treatment of her, Quagmire's horn dog lifestyle, Stewie's early attempts to kill his mother, or the many over-the-top side characters. However, one episode, Screams of Silence, the story of Brenda Q, which centers on Quagmire's sister, is so dark and troubling that it pushes the boundary. This episode goes too far for a show known for its hilariously offensive content, and the episode's topic should be discussed. Screams of Silence, the story of Brenda Q, is the 3rd episode from season 10 of Family Guy, and while much of the episode revolves around Peter's pervy friend Quagmire, who often gets himself in trouble with how strongly he comes on to members of the opposite sex, this time it's his sister Brenda who gets the attention. We're introduced to her after Quagmire nearly dies in an accident, but what kind of accident, you might ask? This being Family Guy, Peter and Joe find him hanging near death during a session of autoerotic asphyxia while watching clown porn gone wrong. While Quagmire is in the hospital and in a coma, Brenda arrives with her boyfriend Jeffrey Feckelman, a loud wife-beater shirt-wearing jerk. Lois tells Peter that she can't stand Jeff's abusive ways, but Peter says that Brenda has gotten a lot better, the joke being that it's her fault that she's abused, but now she's behaving. Then, we're introduced to Jeff, who's quickly calling Brenda a sleut and making fun of her singing voice when she tries to comfort Quagmire. The heavy bags under her eyes shows that she's a woman in constant distress, and that point is hit home over and over, like when Jeff makes Brenda leave when her brother touches her arm, or how he screams at her for wanting to stay with the Griffins. He hits and pushes her right in front of the Griffins and Quagmire, calling her more names and beating her down with his words. At night, he screams at her while everyone else has to listen from their beds. If we're supposed to laugh, it's impossible to know where the jokes are at, that is, until Peter makes a flat cutaway joke about a rock and lobsters. Mistreatment and misogyny at peak. So what do you think of the treatment of these subjects in these sitcoms as a modern-day viewer? Do you find them offensive? Let us know in the comments down below. Also, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and found it entertaining, then don't forget to like and also subscribe to our channel, as well as ring the notification bell so you never miss any future content from us.